Hello and welcome back to the FPL Tom YouTube channel for a very special Q&A with some wonderful guests. I'm today joined by FPL Fran and of course Golden Goal Fantasy Football. How are we doing, lads? We enjoying Club World Cup planning so far? How are we feeling about it?
I'm ready to look like I don't know anything compared to you guys. So I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to do.
Fran?
Yeah, I mean, I said it before, but I had just started looking at the tournament yesterday, but I'm pretty happy with like strategy-wise what I'm going to do and how I plan to target certain teams and players.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we're in for an interesting stream. Let's put it that way. As soon as I saw you was playing Fran, I was like, I've got to chat to Fran about this game. Your kind of viewpoint, and especially in terms of strategy, I wanted to really kind of delve into. Obviously, with your previous historic, very good FPL record. So I think a lot of the viewers as well. I've seen quite a few comments on Twitter when I put out the post for this one as well, expressing an interest in taking a look at what your thoughts are in terms of those chip strategies for this upcoming game. So we'll get round to that when we obviously brush onto your team. We'll try and answer as many of your guys' questions as well in the comments. So if you do have any, feel free to drop them in. There's a poll going around on the chat as well if you fancy letting us know which player is going to score the most points ahead of match day one. We've got Kane, Elise and Mbappe, and then I put other in there. If you do want to go for other, let us know who that other player is in the chat. But let's start off first with Golden Goal. Let's go for your team, Tom. Talk me through it. I know this is the one that was included in your recent video. Quite a few changes from your last draft. Talk me through why you've made those changes, and as you can see as well, the 12th man active. Talk to me about your chip strategy as well, mate.
Yeah, I mean, my logic is attack the first fixture. Bayern Munich and Auckland City, I think, is the biggest disparity between two teams in the tournament. So I think logic dictates you attack that. Although when we were talking before, Fran mentioned that Musiala could well be injured, so I might have to change my 12th man immediately after hearing that. But yeah, I think to be honest, it's much for muchness between all of those Bayern mids. So it's just deciding who the one I want to pick as my 12th man is really. What have I got to say other than that? I had DeMarco in there instead of Pavard, but I quite like the chance of taking DeMarco on with Pavard being less than 5% owned. I
Mm-hmm.
quite like the thought of getting the bonus points for his clean sheets. And also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, DeMarco's got a pretty poor record of making it to 60 minutes. He can get an early sub quite a lot. So I think that happened in the chat. Well, Champions League final is a game in itself, but I think that happened. He got sub pretty early in that game. So yeah, I went for Pavard with that logic. I can't really remember what other changes I made, to be honest. Guardiola's in there just because I think he's going to be pretty ridiculous for Man City. Although, have they confirmed the signing of Eight Nori today? Has that actually gone through, or is it
Yeah,
yet?
it's been here we go, but I don't know if it'll go through before Club World Cup starts. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see on that one. But for the time being, I've got Guardiola because I think he's going to play that inverted left back position. Francisco Moura, I haven't found a better cheap defender in the game than him, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I went for him. Any other notes? I've gone for Enzo Fernandez because I haven't played UCL Fantasy this season, which has had obviously got similar rules to this. But I did play the Euros game and I had Fabian Ruiz from Spain. And I think Fernandez and Fabian Ruiz play a similar sort of style in terms of slightly more attacking centre midfielder that might get some tackles and some attacking returns. So with that logic, I went for him. Anything else of note? I went for Svensson as well over, I think the alternative is Ryerson, isn't it, from Dortmund? With the
Yeah.
same logic as going for Pavard over DeMarco, really, just for some bonus points because he's low owned. And I believe he takes corners, whereas Ryerson, I believe, doesn't. So he's a little bit more expensive, but you get the bonus points. So I think that's the major changes. Oh, and I went for Marchessan over Armani because Armani and my previous keeper played on the same day. So I just wanted to split the fixtures.
Fair enough, fair enough. It's a really interesting point you make there about the defenders, to be honest. It's something I wanted to pick up with kind of both of you. Is it worth, if you've got a defender, say, in your team that isn't known for his attacking returns, worth potentially selecting a maybe more expensive or sometimes potentially cheaper, little bit risky rotation pick that is under 5% because he will get those two bonus if they're obviously not known for their attacking returns?
Um, I think it is worthwhile.
Hmm.
Um, because the way that the the point scoring in this game works is it gives you more points than ever really. So like hitting that threshold is quite easy.
Yeah.
And then also we have so many lopsided matchups. So in theory, you should still be able to pick players. Like even if I think about Man City and maybe I'll talk about this in my draft, but like if I go with the alternative center back, for example, that is lower owned, there's going to be more value there in most cases, and it's only really I think in the attacking kind of choices where maybe the differential isn't worth it because I think you have limited routes to attacking points, whereas clean sheets are kind of homogeneous. Sorry, so yeah, I think the center back logic actually makes a lot of sense, especially like the lower owned ones, but then. I suppose I'm also just hoping that in some cases, if I've picked fullbacks, that they also get those kind of crazy attacking returns.
Yeah, you definitely could see it happening though, like you said, with some of those one-sided games. Your likes of obviously Dumfries, who had a pretty good UCL campaign, Gvardiol as well, if he's playing in that kind of marauding fullback role as well. You could see them going off and getting some pretty big scores, so kind of disrupting that pattern. The other point I wanted to raise with your team, Tom, was around the double into defence. Obviously, their manager has left; he's gone off to the Saudi Pro League. Is that potentially going to impact your decision on the players you pick? Because it is going to be a new manager, potentially a new system as well within that back line. Do you think maybe that influences Dumfries? Maybe he's a lot less attacking, and is he justified that 6.3 million price tag then?
I just think Champions League final aside, if you're going in to manage Inter Milan, I'm not sure you change too much about how they play, really. I think that squad is built for three at the back, three centre backs, flying wing back sort of football, really. So I think whoever comes in surely has, well, they're not going to get signings in time, are they? So I think it has to be that kind of football that they play. But yeah, your logic still is right. I think there's definitely a factor there. But for me, I'll back them. I'll still back them.
Okay. Was there anyone from your opening draft that you wish you could have got in here but just couldn't find a way to get them in?
Yeah, it's the third forward spot that I'm struggling with at the moment. It's whether you want to pick this. It's whether you want to pick. I'm going to call him Maggie Howell. I think he's got another nickname that people might call him as well. But it's whether you want to pick him or go more expensive and just absolutely maximise that spot. Because I did have Garassi of Dortmund in there previously, and then I just saw this guy at 4.2 million and thought you can't really miss out on the value. But I still think there's logic for picking three really strong forwards as well. It's just depends how you want to play it, I suppose.
In terms of that, maybe you could switch up that 12th man to be Kane, but I guess it then takes him off captaincy to do that, is the only problem. And if you feel he's going to be the best captain for match day one, then it probably is worth still keeping him in there.
And that's my whole logic for doing the 12th man on the first week for me as well, is because it just feels like on paper this is the best captaincy of the entire tournament. So that's my logic for going Kane, as I've got him at the moment.
Okay. In terms of your other chips, when are you planning on playing them? Obviously, we've got the max captain and wild card, and then obviously the mystery chip will be announced when we reach the knockout stages. But in terms of that wild card and max captain, when are you thinking of playing both those chips?
I think quite simple, to be honest. I think Max Captain will come in match day 2 and then our wild card in 3. I feel like I've got quite a lot of players from teams that will probably be through after match day 2. And you'd imagine, much like international tournaments as well, there's going to be rotation in that final group game. So that was my logic, really. Quite simple, to be honest.
Yeah. I think that makes complete sense. I think a lot of people are obviously looking at a max captain chip maybe in the final or semi-final. Has that crossed your mind at all, or are you still pretty set on game week 2, match day 2? Sorry, should I say?
So it's not a bad shout. I just feel like there'll be more. I feel like there'll be more goals and more opportunity to get points in the group stages, just because you're going to have weaker teams there. That would be my feeling.
Yeah. Fran, any thoughts on Tom's team right now? Any players he's missing? Any players that you like the look of?
The only thing I would say is I just don't like using Neuer, right? Because if it's the best game on paper for Bayern, you probably want to still hope that you can get more returns, like the higher range of the threshold in terms of picking a player. So that's the only thing. But I think, yeah, I mean, I like the draft and I actually like a lot of the ideas around picking the center backs.
Interesting stuff. Right. Let's answer some questions before we move on to your teams, Fran. Looking in the chat, we've got lots of channel moderators and members, so thank you very much for coming out. Jamie, Luke. Luke says, Pavard hasn't started much recently. Also, do you reckon the new manager can affect Dumfries? We kind of touched on that one, but are you a little bit worried about Pavard's minutes potentially there, Tom? Or do you think maybe under this new manager, things could change?
Yes, it's a fair point on Pavard, to be fair. I just think every time I've ever seen Dumfries play football, he has a chance of scoring a goal in every game that I've ever watched him, for whatever team he's played for. So I'm always going to back Dumfries, I think, in fantasy football games.
Cool. Next question. Can you have a fourth Bayern Munich player as your 12th man? You can indeed. For defenders, should you chase the under 5% for the bonus points or goals with the 7 points? We kind of alluded to that one already, pretty much, didn't we? We kind of said that we like the idea of centre-backs that are lower owned and have that opportunity to, of course, go and get the extra 2 points for the scouting bonus. But we said the attacking ones still, with a lot of one-sided matchups, could really do some damage in this tournament. And then the final question, is there any chance, is it pronounced Masatuno, right? Can stay at River Plate. Obviously, there's been a lot of links, obviously, to your club as well, Fran, Real Madrid, PSG, obviously looking at him. I remember reading that he might not be able to move because he's only 17. Is that correct, under FIFA transfer law? I don't know if you guys know anything else on that one.
I honestly haven't looked into that, but most of the reporting seems to suggest even if we were to get him, that he'd still play this tournament with River Plate. So I hope that pans out to be true.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are, to be honest, because at 4.3 million, a player that is pretty much a talisman of that side on penalties, free kicks, corners, and having a great season, we all really want him to stay, to be honest. So if Real Madrid can just cool their interest for now, and then buy him when River Plate obviously fall out of the tournament, that'd be great to see. We've had a question about Asensio as well. Fran, do you reckon he'll play at 4.2 million? Obviously a nice cheap differential that some people are looking at.
Yeah, I think it depends on Rudiger news, actually. So I can't really see us playing a back three with the depth that we have right now, but I mean, that's one thing in question, right? Whether we play a back three or a back four. If we play a back three, he'll definitely play. If we play a back four, then there's a chance that he just doesn't play and he'd be behind Hausen and Rudiger. Because Rudiger had a kind of knee surgery recently, but he did mention that he would be back for the Club World Cup. I'm hoping that he's back for match day one, but you know, if someone's looking for a strategy that kind of gears around match day one, match day two, then maybe Asensio can actually start both games. But I think we'll find out closer to the tournament if we get Rudiger news and hopefully if Xavi speaks a little bit about his tactics.
Yeah, 100%. Again, another new manager coming into a team that, again, who's got to do some work with potentially a different tactical setup as well. So it will be interesting to see how Real Madrid line up in this tournament as well.
New question about defenders then. I had a really rogue question, well, a bit of a rogue question. Are there any defenders that are like rogue penalty or free kick takers in this game?
Good question, that. I haven't seen any so far.
I think that was one of the South American clubs that I looked into, but I don't think that anything's really concrete. Like no one who's like a nailed on taker, just like maybe a second or third choice.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Sorry to interrupt you, Tom.
No worries, mate. No worries. Final question before we move on to Fran's team. Can Manchester City have a bigger game than Bayern? Obviously, Casablanca in their opening fixture. Again, looking at the betting odds, City heavy favourites. I think you can get prices of 30 or 31 to 1. Obviously, Bayern's is way bigger. 90 to 1 was the top price you can get for that one. But what do we reckon? Maybe City, could they go and get a decent scoreline? Maybe some of their players pick up decent points as well in that one?
Yeah, why not? I think my issue with City was actually just how do you even pick attacking players from that aren't Haaland, really?
Yeah.
There's Marmoush, but then that really takes away from a pretty lucrative forward spot, as you kind of mentioned previously. So it's really tough. And we've seen Phil's minutes this season. KDB's not there. They haven't really gotten their midfield signings in. So it's a bit of a weird one there.
Yeah, I think I was reading as well, like Grealish is apparently going to be not included in the squad as well. So maybe that
Yeah.
opens the door up for somebody like a Doku potentially. But I kind of have I don't really
Oh, I
like.
can't bring myself
I
to
Yeah,
won't
watch it.
either.
Yeah, I can't do
I
that.
don't like Jeremy Doku, so I won't be putting myself through that torture, to be honest. Right, let's move on. Let's take a look at your team then, Fran. You updated this very last minute on the stream. You weren't happy with the initial one you sent me, but talk me through it and talk me through your chip strategy heading into this tournament.
Yeah, I think when I looked at the rules, I thought, okay, you kind of have to just wild card in the group stage to probably get the best value from the amount of transfers you get in the sort of playoff stage. So I was thinking I'd probably just go for a match day two wild card strategy, which means that I'm just targeting match day one. The reason why I'm doing this, even though I know there's going to be rotation match day three, is just hoping that a lot of the players that I pick in match day two on that wild card will probably have a tough game in match day one, so they're likely to be incentivized to play match day two and match day three properly. And then yeah, in match day one, I think you have a lot of one-sided matchups, and I think before the call we even spoke about it, like teams like Bayern, for example, have a tougher game match day three. So, investing into like quadruple Bayern, for example, and then kind of cashing out is something that is is something that I like. And also anticipating rotation anyways, given that I'm thinking they're going to smash match day one. So yeah, the draft that I have is very much focused around having like a very balanced team. So there's no real budget players at all. I did switch to moving to Samu. Um, I would say Omeridion, but I think he wants to be called by another name. So the main logic there is I actually just looked at Tom's draft and thought, why don't I have him in my team? Because I was going for Bruno Henrique from Flamengo, or Flamenco, and I I know that Pedro is usually supposed to be their starting striker, but he's coming back from an injury, and Bruno has sort of been deputizing. He's played the bigger games recently, like versus Palmeiras, and he's done well, but his minutes aren't guaranteed. And so, yeah, when Samu's there, even though he has a pretty mediocre game, he's just everything that I kind of want in a player, best minutes possible and penalties. So, he kind of once I squeezed him in my draft, I basically thought, okay, I can go for basically every attacking fullback that I want, which then kind of led me towards going for almost all the best attacking fullbacks from teams with the highest clean sheet odds that I could see. So Cambiaso, for example, anyone who's nailed like Dumfries as well, I've gone for. I think you touched on it previously, Tom, but yeah, DeMarco's minutes a bit shaky, so that's why I didn't go there. Um, and that's kind of the team. I think there's a bit more Chelsea I can see from this drop and a bit more Juventus than most people would have. And that's purely because I'm just targeting that match day one. Not that Chelsea have an amazing game, but their defense has been really good, especially in the second half of the season. I think we saw that in the Prem. So I kind of like investing into that defense and Cucurella as well. In the midfield, it seems like a lot of midfields are going to be very, very similar because of the need. Well, first of all, Franco's just amazing. So is their Saita. And like when I look at Bayern, I'll just be waiting for the lineups really, and I'll just pick the midfielders there. I think Musiala won't play, as I said, just to start the first match. So looking at some of the previous Bayern games when Musiala was out, I think Gnabry plays a lot more minutes in this kind of structure. Um, but then Rafael Guerreiro is probably one player in my draft that I would like to fit in. So when we talked about the 12th man, not only am I just looking at four attackers for Bayern, but actually Rafael Guerreiro is quite interesting for me as a pick, maybe as my fourth man. So that's the only player that I was looking at. That would be quite interesting. I was also thinking about simply just going for maybe 12th man Mbappe. Because I don't think the Real Madrid game is awful from an attacking point of view. I can still see like our kind of expected goals are very, very high. So that's something I was thinking about too. But that's kind of the draft. It's sort of maximizing points. I think this tournament provides you more points than usual for clean sheets, for goals scored. So it kind of benefits you to probably spend a bit more on I think, a slightly more well-rounded team to kind of squeeze out the maximum potential points. Like 5 points for a clean sheet is kind of insane, especially in this structure too, where I think later in the tournament, and the reason why I don't really mind wildcarding early is if I can effectively have two wildcards and then I take hits in match day three. I don't feel so bad about it because when you look at the rules, 3 points per hit actually is, that's a lot stronger than in other games where I think a lot of people are incentivized to play passively at times. Here, I think with more points on offer and then less points um, to take away from you when you go and make kind of risky decisions on match day three, I'm quite happy with a strategy like this.
Yeah, I was
That
gonna.
hasn't even crossed my mind yet, the hits thing. But that's massive, isn't it? It's like 25% less points you lose, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never not even thought of that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys about that. We'll obviously talk a little bit more about it with my team because that was the plan for match day 2 is to make 4 transfers. So again, it is because it's only going to cost me 6 points to do that, and with there being such one-sided kind of games, I think players very easily could make that difference back up. But overall, Fran, I am very, very impressed with this side. Like you said, the defense, so many good attacking defenders that could pick up mega scores in big one-sided games as well. Obviously, Cucurella's a player that I've seen quite a few people's drafts as well. I think Chelsea across their whole group, to be honest, should do exceptionally well. Cambiasso as well, I think's under. Is he still under 5%? I know he was getting close the other day that I took a look at him, but if he can,
I think yeah, he'll probably break that threshold, which is a shame. But
yeah, I was gonna
maybe
say.
I'll just not post my draft soon. No, I'm kidding.
just keep it hidden away. I'll take the video down afterwards, so no one knows to go buy Cambiasso afterwards. But yeah, if he manages to somehow sneak it under 5%, he could be a real gem as well. So overall, I think this is a very, very impressive team, and I like the strategy that you're going for as well. The only problem I think maybe I had with it was obviously you mentioned potentially going Guerrero with the 12th man, and I think
Yeah.
before we came live, we were talking maybe a little bit about buying resting players or bringing players off early. Would that
Yeah.
maybe concern you if you went for him and they're maybe 6-0 up at half time that he could be one
Yeah.
of those casualties and you miss out on the clean
Very well
sheet
could.
points?
That's kind of why I was thinking maybe I'll just go Mbappe instead because I can imagine he'll play 90 minutes for us or as close to 90 minutes as possible. So that's like a good way to circumvent that.
Yeah, 100%. Tom, any thoughts on Fran's team?
You've given me so much to think about with this draft. I love it. I don't really have any feedback. It's just given me a lot to think about. I'm very grateful for you talking through it.
No, yeah.
I'm grateful for Samu from you. So
This is why I wanted to get Fran on, to be honest, because you've got, I don't know how to describe it, but you've got a completely different way of looking at the game. And I think it's something that I've taken from you in recent seasons as well and started to implement into my own game. So if anybody isn't subscribed to Fran's channel, make sure to go and check it out because it is, like I said, a completely different way of looking at the game. And again, yeah, you've made me potentially reconsider my draft as we'll come on to see. There's a lot of cheaper defenders that I've gone for. And I'm looking at yours and I am really jealous of the likes of Dumfries, Gavardio, Cucurella, Cambiasso. I'm running out of superlatives, to be honest, for the draft. In terms of any players that you're thinking maybe I'd love to get in there, but I just can't quite, is there anybody that's kind of coming to mind, Fran?
sorry, I kind of missed that. Anyone I'm missing out that I probably want to have?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, probably Cole Palmer, my favorite useless player of the year. But yeah. Um, because it is a good game, and I don't know. I do think Enzo is probably good enough value to get from that Chelsea game, and Palmer just feels a bit too expensive in a match day one where you kind of have to spend that money on those Bayern players, or at least a City or an Mbappe. So it was kind of tough to fit him in there, but that's it really. And just on Tom's point in terms of 5% ownership, like if any of my defenders start creeping above that, like Gregorio, for example, like he's 4.8%. If these types of players suddenly creep past that 5% threshold, I'll probably have to reconsider some of those picks a little bit more.
Yeah, I think he will because I've seen in quite a lot of people's drafts that they've been going for
Mm.
Perrin. So I think when people realise Perrin's not the first choice goalkeeper, they're gonna be switching out
Yeah.
pretty quickly, aren't they?
Be quiet. Don't tell anyone.
Let's have a look in the chat, see if we've got any other comments before we move on to my team. Let's have a look. Very close. Is Kelly worth a punt? Someone asks. I think he's maybe around 2 to 3%, 4.7
Yeah.
million. Been playing a lot of games for Juve at the back end of the year as well.
That's one of the players I had in my first submitted draft, right? Because I was kind of looking at Juventus minutes after the new manager came in, and he's actually played a lot of minutes. Like there've been players who've been chopped and changed, but he's actually kept his spot in the team. So I think yeah, for the for that threshold reason, it's really good. And Juventus actually would have like third best clean sheet odds for this match day. So I think it's a really good pick.
Yeah, I think especially if you're not planning on wildcard until 3 as well, both their opening fixtures are pretty decent for clean sheet numbers as well. So I think you should be decent. Good looking for clean sheets. People asking about Garassi. Neither of you had Garassi in your drafts. Is he a player that you're a little bit worried about, considering Dortmund's group?
100%. Yeah, I just went for the massive cost saving, but 100%. Yeah, I can't say anything else really. He does worry me.
He had a pretty good Champions League campaign. He did some real big damage for a lot of people who didn't have him in UCL Fantasy this season.
The Dortmund striker just always scores lots of goals, don't they? They always have a striker that just bags them.
Yeah. Carlos has asked an interesting question. Would either of you consider Elise as a captain over Harry Kane?
Yeah, I think so. But it's like, do you really want to take risks so early on in the tournament, I guess? Because I think like any game I visualize, I think Kane's minutes are mostly going to be safe. And yeah, I just think maybe later in the tournament when you want to differentiate could make a bit more sense. But early on, I'm trying to maximize one point still. Because I think most people's drafts will be so different just given the kind of wild card window. And I'll probably just be captaining Kane. But he's probably the second best pick, right? Like he's going to be my vice.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe it's an argument potentially for some people who don't fancy the 12th man. Maybe a max captainship kind of spreads the risk out. Obviously, with Kane and Elise both playing on that same day. Cool. Right, we'll do one more question. Thoughts on Pascal Gross, under 5% owned and 2 points for every 2 chances created. What are we thinking about him? Again, there is a big kind of lack of Dortmund within this draft on screen, but do you not like Dortmund, Fran? Do they not do it for you? Are they not a team that you want to back, or is it ones that you're going to pick up on the wild card in too?
It's a tricky one because I think for the combination of their games, I mean, I actually think I might just wildcard into them, right? But Fluminense in theory is their toughest matchup on match day 1, which is kind of why I've skirted past them. So it's a bit of a tough one for me. I think it just doesn't fit my strategy, but there's nothing wrong with going Dortmund because it's kind of foolproof. Like they have a really good group.
Yeah, 100%. Right, let's move on to the final team, and then we'll obviously finish up and answer any of your guys' questions that you want to get into the chat for us. Let me run you through what I'm currently working with. It's a little bit different to the strategy that you boys have been going for. Like I said, I've gone for kind of the more cheap and cheerful route in terms of defense. I just don't see the big upside in goalkeepers, and that is kind of in with every fantasy game that I play. I really don't like goalkeepers, and I really hate spending money on them. I think they're just such a limited way to points. So I've gone for Martian from Boca and Armani from River Plate, coming in at 4.1 and 4 million between them. And I think what it's allowed me to do is build a pretty decent team going forward. I've not had to kind of sacrifice that third forward spot because of that. I've been able to get Garassi in, who is a player that I really do think could have a fantastic tournament considering the season he's just come off, and even the season before that as well. The guy just knows how to find goals. I think the opening game is his toughest, but in match day 2, the reason I want to have him now is when I play that max captainship. I think it's on the 20th. There's 3 fixtures that I'd really want to captain a player in. So it's on the 17th. So you've got, not 17th, sorry, apologies. It is on the 20th. You've got PSG versus Botafogo. So obviously Dembele is a captain shout. Hakimi potentially could go off in that one. You've got Benfica against Auckland. I plan on bringing in Pavlidis for that one anyway. So again, could be a decent shout. Chelsea have got Flamingo, which isn't the easiest one, but I'd still have Cole Palmer, and he still could potentially do something. And then you've got Dortmund versus Sundowns as well. So again, you've got so many good players all playing within the same day that I don't think I want to have that decision, who do I captain, because it could lead me to potentially having massive swings one way. So I think that's why I'm going for him, and why I've obviously picked him. The rest of the team, I think we've just gone for the usual kind of suspects, to kind of the player profiles that I like to go for. Players that see decent minutes, are involved in kind of free kicks, corners, penalties. And that's kind of what we've gone for with the midfield. Obviously, Elise Palmer and the others as well. And then it is just that defence, compared to Fran's, it is just a little bit weaker. Obviously, we've got more of the 4.1 that everyone's kind of raving about. And then I have Kelly, because he is under 5%. And I think for the opening 2 games, Juventus should be decent value for clean sheets, to be honest. But yeah, that's where my team's at the moment. I think obviously the big name missing is going to be Mbappe, that could do some serious damage. And he's not really a player that we've kind of spoke about, to be honest. I know he wasn't in your draft either, Fran. But he's, I think, at 56%, the highest owned player within the game right now. Going against that sounds pretty scary, to be honest. But yeah, that's where the team's at. What are you guys thinking of it?
I love how we've got 3 different strategies with our teams in the way we're going to play the game. That's my first observation. They're all different, and I think they're all very good teams. But I think, yeah, that's all I wanted to say, really. They're different, and I like it.
Fran, any thoughts from you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm with Tom as well. I think, yeah, like when I look at Dortmund, it is quite scary, probably going against them. I can't really fault any strategy, because you can probably look at any of the top teams going to the tournament. Like, there's probably around like 6 or 8 of them, and they've got 2 pockets of good games, and there's different ways of approaching that, right? So yeah, I do really like it, and I do like going for Palmer as well, because yeah, he was a player that I felt I really missed out. Girassi, he's actually a player I actually had a tough time with in Champions League, because I sold his hat trick versus Barcelona. But it was but yeah, he's just had an incredible season, and his baselines have been absolutely mental. I just think it is a weird one looking at their league season as well, because he probably didn't have as like explosive as the league season as he did in Champions League, and so who knows, maybe they're just a better cup team, and that could be quite scary for me.
Have you taken a look at any of the Egyptian players within the game? It's something I wanted to flag to you both. If you take a look at the ownership for a lot of the Egyptian players, they are ridiculously high. Is that something that maybe you think you've got to potentially look at? Obviously, in terms of their kind of effective ownership, I know maybe they're not going to be the big points hitters, but their group, especially Al Ali, is quite open. I don't really see a clear favourite in it, considering how kind of disappointing Porto's season was. Is that maybe a factor that you've got to weigh into your decision making with this first draft as well?
I've been really careful with how I've said it in my videos, because this game, well, you said it before we joined, has a really large Egyptian player base. I don't know much about Egyptian football, and I haven't got a view in my brain of how strong they are as teams compared to the European ones in the tournament. So that's what's been. I can see there's plenty of really good cheap options. I just haven't made that decision in my mind if they're strong enough teams to pick players from at the moment. I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say.
No, I think that's fine. Like, if you don't, obviously, like, for a lot of people, this will be the first time ever hearing of this team, and I think that will probably be the case for most European managers that are playing this game as well. And I think maybe it could be a good route to points, where you think, oh, okay, that game's not going to matter. Nobody's going to have those players. You take a look at the ownership and go, oh, God, 27% Iman Ashur. And you will have never heard of this man. I've had quite a few people at work ask me who he was today when they were building their drafts, and they were a little bit puzzled as to why he was 27% owned. But, I mean, the numbers that he's been putting up this season, they've been pretty decent, to say the least.
Humour me, Todd. What's he been doing this season then? I don't know anything about him, so tell me. What's the score? I'll Google him.
Let me quickly get my notes up on him. I can't remember him off my heart. But I think
I'll put you on the spot.
You have put me on the spot.
Okay, so he's played 39 domestic games, 19 goals, 9 assists by the looks of it this season. That's pretty strong, to be fair, isn't it?
Pretty good, that. It's pretty good, that. I think they've got a striker as well at 4 million potentially, who could be worth maybe taking a little bit of a poke and a look at as well.
Is that Abu Ali? Let's have a look
I
at him
believe
as
so.
well.
Yeah.
Well, he's done well. 16 goals in 30, yes, 20 returns in 31 games this season as well. So yeah, they're both in and around that sort of, yeah, they've had good seasons then.
Yeah.
It looks like Al Ali are completely dominant in Egypt though, by the looks of it. That's one thing I did see.
Yeah, from I've been listening to quite a
Yeah.
few different kind of like predictions ahead of the tournament as well, and a lot of the kind of more African views that I've heard of it really fancy them to do exceptionally well in this tournament. They believe they're one of the strongest sides within Africa, so maybe they are going to just be one of those teams that people underestimate and undervalue, and they actually go off because it is quite a wide open group. Is that Group A, to be honest? Right, let's have a look what questions we've had come in the chat. What about Gittens or Brandt from Dortmund? Says Mark. Any love for either of those two from you two?
I had
Yeah,
Brad in
funny
my
thing
team.
about do you?
Go on. Sorry.
I think Brandt was voted as the flop of the season in Bundesliga.
Wow.
Just a joke, but yeah, he's had a pretty poor year, but obviously he's still kind of their talisman on paper. And on all the good things. Pascal Gross, I think chances created is probably like a little bit overrated. Same with like tackles as well, because honestly, you could be one of the best chance creators in Europe, and it's still not a good way to get points consistently in this game, especially given that this game actually gives you more points for scoring goals than the usual games we play do. You're still kind of incentivized to get that +1 point actually from a goal scorer, in my opinion, if I go back to Pascal Gross. Um, but yeah, I quite like the idea of Brandt. Brandt's very solid.
Decent. Was he in your draft, Tom, or was he in one of your old drafts?
He was, but I may have made a change to it already, having seen both of your two teams. I'm not going to try and pronounce it. I've gone for the Flamengo midfielder now, after seeing what you guys have done. I think he's, especially with that first fixture, I can't really justify pricking Brandt over him, I don't think.
No, yeah, I think I put a tweet out about Flamingo's opening game. I don't know if you've been using the Opta Power rankings, but they're a good way to kind of gauge where certain teams and certain levels are. But I think they were somewhere like, let me have a look where the tweet is. Maybe like League One-ish level for that opening fixture.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
Luton. They were just above Luton in terms of the power rankings. Oh. Uh-oh. Well, that was not planned at all. Give me a quick second. I'll see if I can try and get the call back up. Let's see. I hope it works. There we go. It was never going to run smooth, was it, Fran?
Sorry, I'm back though.
No worries, mate. We've lost Tom as well, so we'll see if he pops back in. But it was never going to go smooth. Let's answer some questions while we wait for Tom to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Someone's asked about Lucas Ribeiro I think he's from Sundowns, having a pretty decent start to the season this year as well, under 5% currently as well. And their opening fixture is pretty tasty, to be honest, against the South Korean team. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Is it Ulsan? Something like that? Ulsan HD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
Have you taken a look at him, or is this the first time hearing of him?
No, and I mean, I guess going back to that sort of discussion on Egyptian players as well, I do find it quite hard to pick some of the players from what I would perceive to be weaker leagues. But these are lower owned players, so I guess I would have been more detracted to pick, Abu Ali, for example, just on the basis that his ownership's already high. So what's the point of not picking someone like that? But yeah, if someone's different, like effective ownership is quite low, it might make sense. I just tend to think there's almost too many good options that are slightly better, especially with Franco, for example. Like once you have enough of these kind of game breakers in a team, structurally, I think it's very hard to like fit more differentials in or justify fitting more differentials in, especially since differentials aren't now anyone who's like sub 5% owned, and you can just, as Tom has, pick a defender who hasn't been picked from the same team who'll get 50. Like it feels like a math equation, right? Like a lot of these teams have 50, 60% clean sheet odds, which is mental. Like you don't see that in the Prem often. I think it happened like 3, 4 times a season. Every time was probably around facing off with Leicester or Southampton at home, that kind of thing. So on a neutral ground, the fact that you have these odds, um, you're guaranteeing those effective points from just picking a slightly more differentiated, good team defender, or maybe even a midfielder in cases like we struggle picking City players, and maybe you could find the right one if we get a bit more news about their sort of transfer activity and what the squad will look like when they submit it. But yeah, I'm probably going to stray away from a lot of those picks other than Derasaita, but that's already a slightly popular pick, right? So
Yeah, I think his ownership's already quite high, to be honest. I think maybe 8-9% already, so he's already out of that differential scouting
exactly.
bonus point. So yeah.
Yeah.
But what other questions have we got? Opinions on Foden as a 5% punt? I don't really like it, and I can see from your two's facial expressions, probably the same as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people got away with owning Foden this season, but so maybe they'll get away with it again. You never know. But jokes aside, I think it's just a bit of a struggle. I think I actually listened to Pep recently, and it's still kind of fatherly comments about how they just need to take care of him. So I just don't think like mentally he's had the time to reset potentially, and I'm really not expecting much from him. So yeah, and he's expensive, unfortunately, very expensive.
Yeah, he is very expensive for what he does as well, to be honest, which is not a lot at the moment. um,
Yeah,
we've had
sub 5% though.
yeah, sub 5%. Maybe if we get some sort of kind of comment from Pep that he's going to be in the starting 11, maybe. But I still
Yeah.
think there's a plethora of midfield options that are better than Foden for me.
Yeah.
We've had a few questions asking about Messi. He wasn't included in any of our drafts. Has he potentially entered anyone's drafts at any point? Or no? Is he not an option?
Just don't think he plays for a good enough team. That's my only thought really. He's definitely going to score a penalty or a free kick at some point, isn't he? But I just don't think he's worth picking. I don't know if you guys feel the same. Well, I guess you do because he's not in your team.
Yeah. I think that's well said. I did have the displeasure of actually watching one of the MLS playoff games involving Messi, and it was pretty awful. So, although it's nice to see some players like Jordi Alba and Luis Suarez, I won't be there, I think.
Ben has asked, "Hi lads, how does the Club World Cup work, and how do teams qualify, and where is it?" It is in the States, so a lot of the games aren't actually that good for UK audience time-wise, but once they get to the knockouts, they're not too bad. How they qualify is through winning Champions Leagues, or if you're Inter Miami, just having Messi. That was good enough for them to get in there. Thoughts on PSG assets? Obviously, Fran, there wasn't any in yours. Was there any in yours,
Yeah.
Tom? I can't quite remember your team off the top of my head.
No, I haven't got any either.
You've got Hakimi, right?
Yeah, I've got Hakimi, and the plan is to move to Dembele for probably Elise in match day 2. But I think
That makes sense.
I just think that opening fixture is not ideal for PSG.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's not great. And again, there's so many one-sided games within this tournament. I think you have to focus on them. And I think we alluded to it a little bit earlier with the kind of only being a -3. It's probably worth taking a few hits to kind of rejig your side around and get those players in for when they play lesser opponents. Notion Vid says he's not going to be playing, but he obviously had to join seeing that Fran was on the stream. He's asking you, what did you make of Madrid this season, and how do you think they're going to get on? And obviously, Tom, how did Bristol City make the playoffs? I'll let you go first, Fran.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think we had an absolutely horrendous season, but not unexpected with the amount of injuries we've had. I don't want to be, rehearsing some of Postecoglou and Arteta's kind of post-match presser responses, but yeah, we had a pretty tough time with that. I think we didn't take the opportunity to probably reinforce our defense in January, which is pretty normal for us because we like waiting for people on a free. No, but seriously, yeah, it was just the defensive injuries were tough. Carvajal ACL was rough. And then I think, losing Tony Cruz, which was something that we didn't anticipate, probably a year ahead of schedule, not being able to sort of replace what he could do for the team in terms of passing out the back, progressive sort of passing, tempo control, anything really. So I think it's good that we're sort of giving a good ode to Tony Cruz, showing how poor we are with the full season without him. But I'm looking forward to some of the transfer signings. Like I have been raving about Howson for maybe like 6 months now because I've obviously watched him in the Prem. His underlying stats are huge. He's huge, right? Spanish national team, we need a tall center back. Sick of sort of conceding set pieces to people. So it's nice to have someone like that. But I think also on the left sort of center back position, or whether he's going to play, in a 3 or 4, he's just so comfortable on the ball. And we need that level of player. We don't have that in the team. So that's nice. And then obviously Trent, defensive issues aside, I think if anyone's actually watched the season, like you'll take Trent over Lucas Vasquez for 38 games. So, yeah, it was an awful season, but Mbappe I think was really, really prolific, especially in the second half of the season, and I'm excited for the future. It does seem like we might lose Rodrigo, and I think there's a couple of Premier League teams going for him, and I'll be interested to see what we do. It seems like we'll be signing Franco, of course, but I think there might be some other signings if we do let go of Rodrigo. Otherwise, I don't really know. I mean, Xabi Alonso hasn't spoken too much about tactics, and I'm just intrigued to see whether we do move to a back three, because the last time I think we were back three was probably under Del Bosque, which is a long, long time ago, but we were good. And yeah, just looking forward to a fresh start, really.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Trent Alexander-Arnold. If he starts that first game, does he go
hmm
straight in on the wild card for match day 2
I
for you?
think, yeah, I think he will. I think he will probably have to play all 3 matches, for us, because Lucas Vasquez is gone. Carvajal is, I mean, he's been in training, but I don't think he's in any kind of condition to play for us. And I think we played Valverde multiple times at right back, but that was very much like, um, a cover-up situation for when Lucas Vasquez really failed us. So yeah, I think Trent's an amazing pick. There's probably and I think Xabi Alonso's history with attacking fullbacks is a positive to lean on, right?
Yeah.
So I'd probably equate him more towards like a Grimaldo type, compared to like let's say Frimpong, but that bodes well hopefully for his attacking returns.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I definitely think he'll be a player that I maybe have a look at it too, depending on
Yeah.
depending how he looks in match day 1. If he looks good, I think he'll be worth the -3. Definitely for match day 2 ahead of that one. Moving over to you, Tom. Then obviously you've started a new channel as well on Bristol City, one of the biggest fan channels already, mate. Flying out the gates. Talk to me about your
Yeah,
season.
I can't quite believe what's happened there. Yeah, I don't think we've even reached the heights of Real Madrid this season though. A top six finish and losing 3-0 to Sheffield United was our highlight, and we've just lost our manager as well. So that's been a bit of fun. So I guess in terms of time to get YouTube views to start a channel, the time that we lose our manager is probably quite a good time to start a channel, right?
Definitely so, mate. I'll put it in the chat when we finish up, so people can go and check that channel out if there are
Thank
any
you very much.
Bristol City fans within the chat. I doubt it, but you never know.
I also what is amazing is that Lloyd Kelly plays for Juventus. I
Oh yeah,
cannot. He's a Bristol City Academy product, and I was going to the games at like 14, 15, and he was one of the. We've offloaded 3 of our best players now to Bournemouth, and he was the first one that went. And to see him play for Juventus now is just absolutely crazy. Like Bristol City raised player playing for Juventus just feels mad.
I'm a little bit disappointed then you've not got him in your team.
I should definitely
Yeah,
get him in my team,
that's
shouldn't I? To
true.
be honest,
Yeah.
I've got to go for it. I'm going to do it now.
Got to be done
Pavard's going. It's Kelly time.
that. Luke says it's the first time ever a Bristol City, Mansfield Town, and Real Madrid fan have ever talked to each other. Someone asked for the app name. If you go to the FIFA, if you just type in on Google FIFA Club World Cup, or if you go to the FIFA app, it should come up within the App Store. We've had a question about Cherky, obviously joining Manchester City. If he's available for the tournament, do you think he's potentially an option? I think it's probably maybe one to look at match day 2 to see what sort of minutes. But would you
Yeah.
maybe take a gamble if we get positive news match day 1?
It's an interesting point because obviously for my strategy, like if I knew he was going to start, like I'd definitely do it. But then I think the City game is like almost on the second leg of match day 1, so
Yeah.
I don't think I'll get that sort of starting lineup. And then yeah, I mean he's a very prolific sort of chance creator, and I just I just can't see it. Because you've seen Pep with a lot of young talents, and he gives them a lot of time really to get integrated. And I think like Kushner, for example, was kind of rushed in just because they had no one, but when they actually had depth, it's like we didn't see him ever again. Not that they're a good comparison, but I think the same could happen with Jerky as well.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Right, let's see what other questions we've got. Does the 12th man give you unlimited budget? It does indeed. Check Ortiz. 4 ball recoveries a game in Brazilian Serie A. Could be a potential one there from the 5%.
Can we discuss that briefly? So the rules is tackles, right? Not ball recoveries.
Let me have a look.
And someone might ask, well, what's the difference? And I couldn't tell you because I've been trying to count ball recoveries in previous fantasy games, and I can tell you I'm not sure how people do it. Because there's like different ways to approaching almost a definition for a ball recovery. But I think just looking at kind of historical tackle stats, it's usually lower than ball recoveries. So I think trying to approach going for a pick on the basis of tackles is probably not what I would do if I'm being completely honest. Um,
Does anyone know
yeah.
what, like, I don't know if the correct term is stats body this game will get us? Would it take it from Opta and the data it takes from its games, or would it come from somewhere else? Because it might be
Uh,
defined by whoever they take their stats from, I'm guessing.
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay,
But I'm not
Google
sure
it.
what the actual
Yeah, it's
um
tackles. Every 3 tackles is an additional point.
and that's kind of my concern.
That
Yeah.
seems a lot. A lot of tackles just to get 1 point out of a player.
Yep.
There's just not enough points in it, is there? That's the other
No.
thing. I just don't. It's a nice bonus to like pick a player who can score goals, get assists, and pick up the odd tackle. But I think picking a player 4 tackles, not worth it. I mean, 6 tackles gets you 2 points based on what you've said, or is it a maximum of 1 point for 3? I haven't really paid much attention because I saw it and thought there's not enough points in this really to chase it.
But yeah, I just looked into it, right? So like I kind of went on some stats websites and just I was looking at ball recs versus ball tackles. I mean, ball recs tend to happen almost at 2 times the pace of tackles. And so yeah, it's not an effective way to get points if they're basing it off of tackles. Like I remember Kukurea had like 12 ball recoveries in one game in the Euros. That is not going to happen. Like you're going to see someone with 2 tackles maybe or 3 tackles in a game max. Because I think like Palhinha, his sort of record-breaking season was like 154 tackles in the Prem. So I was looking at that and thinking that's actually not a great way to get points.
Yeah, is the definition like dispossess the opposition player and then keep possession for yourself when you've done
Hmm.
it, rather than just take the ball off them and give it to a teammate, something like that? I'm guessing that might be
Exactly, yeah.
what it is.
Interesting. This
Or I think
this
like even winning like an aerial duel, like if
Mm,
it was like a set piece, like for a tackle, you almost have to take it off
yeah.
the opponent, yeah, like in a duel. So it's kind of silly, but unfortunate. Although, yeah, as I said, the differential rule is just insane. So, um, you know,
you
pros and
might
cons.
you might be better going for the differential route from the sounds of it than the tackles one.
And he might be differential, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is why I wanted to get you on, Fran, just to hear that different perspective on things. Love it. Absolutely love it. Mark has asked us if Bayern versus Auckland is the best match to target in match day 1. What do you think are the best fixtures to target in match day 2 and match day 3?
I
That's
think
probably
the
fun.
immediate thought sorry, am I talking over someone?
No, you're good, mate.
No?
The immediate thought I had about Bayern v Auckland was watching like a top international team play San Marino, and the fact that they might sit back really deep and keep them quiet for 40, 45 minutes or so, and then Bayern make some changes at half time, and then some of their players might end up blanking. That could happen. I think it's a nailed-on clean sheet for Bayern. I see no possible way that Auckland score, but they could frustrate them for like a half and force them to make some changes or something like that.
I mean, that kind of happened with Bayern versus Slovan Bratislava, right, in the Champions League. Um, I believe the actual odds line was like 4.75 to 1 or something like that, or 4.3, and it ended up being 3-1, and no one we really liked scored except for Harry Kane. So, yeah, I mean that's possible, but I think just because this is such an easy game, you want to get that out of the way, and then probably get, I don't know, maybe a bit of rest in theory, in the playoffs. Hopefully, you'll see people reaching at least the 60-minute threshold, at least, yeah. And maybe the subs are most likely going to be also offensive if you are struggling to break down a
Yeah,
team. Um, I just think we can make the counter argument, but you probably don't want to be like out of this game from a Bayern perspective. But on
yeah.
match day 2 and 3, I don't know. Did you have any thoughts in terms of teams you wanted to target?
Ooh, good question. In terms of two, I'm definitely looking at Auckland again. I think Benfica's odds will be also pretty favourable for that one.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously the PSG fixture against Botafogo. I think, especially if they don't get anything out of that first game, they're gonna need something from that one. Um, Dortmund versus Sundowns should be a decent matchup. Inter versus Red Diamonds, who I believe are having an absolutely terrible time this season
Mm.
as well. Um, Juve versus Casablanca. There's a lot of good fixtures in two that you can really easily target for that one. I think three's where it's a little bit more difficult because you've got a lot of the top teams kind of going up against each other. PSG, Seattle Sounders, probably the standout pick, or Dortmund. But again, with how easy their group is, they're probably already going to be through and maybe looking to rotate in that one. Um, just going back to a point you made there, Tom, about potentially sitting in. I don't know if you've seen the prize kind of money that you get for this tournament, where you actually pick up 1 mil for a draw. Now,
Wow.
that doesn't sound like a lot for obviously modern football terms, but for a team like Auckland City, picking up 1 million is absolutely massive and game changing. So I think they will try their best and shut up shop in every single game and try and at least get one draw out of this tournament to make £1 million.
What kind of level are they? Are they professional footballers that play for Auckland City, or do they not even class as professionals?
I believe it's semi-professional.
Okay.
Again, I think on the Opta ranking,
Yeah, it
they're
is semi-pro. Yeah.
they're level with like Wealdstone and Brackley.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
that's kind of the level we're dealing with out here. But I think hey, 1 million. I reckon maybe if you're Auckland, there might be some sort of incentive there from the players' perspective.
Oh, what bonus are you getting here as a defender for keeping a cleano for
Yeah,
Auckland? You're getting a fat bonus, aren't you? Let's
yeah.
be
There's going
honest.
to be a fat bonus if the club are getting 1 million in
Right.
the bank. There's got to be some sort of payout for that one. But I still think that's going to be the fixture target in match day
Yeah.
one. Boom. Luke has asked thoughts on Fran Garcia. Probably one for you there, Fran.
Um, I don't actually know what the status is of Ferland Mondi because he obviously was injured for
Mm.
most parts of the second half of the season. If he's available, and once again, it's another chubby thing, right? I think Fran Garcia is probably a better attacking fullback than Ferland Mondi, but I think he's probably going to give Ferland Mondi minutes first,
Mm.
and then Fran Garcia. I think one of the benefits of match day one for Real Madrid is it's not the best game we have. I think our better games are 2 and 3. Although maybe I'm just discrediting Salzburg, but now that they don't have Pep Linders coaching them, maybe they'll be a good team again. But I don't know. I would probably stray away from Fran Garcia. He was a very attacking player previous to joining Real Madrid, but his baselines haven't been really great with us, and yeah, I can't guarantee his minutes either. He could also very well just be like an early substitute in games as Xabi Alonso figures out what he wants from the left back position or left wing back. Yeah, so I'd probably pass.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my concerns, especially with maybe going for the Inter and the Real Madrid players. New managers, are they maybe going to use some of these easier games as potential trials for certain players in potentially different positions, or
Yeah.
seeing how they get on, which is a little bit of a concern and maybe something to think about as we go forward. Uh, Someone said Adeyemi is underrated. What do you potentially make of him?
Is he a midfielder forward in the game? I'm actually not sure because I haven't
He's
looked at
down
him.
as a midfielder in the game.
Okay, then he's probably a very, very good pick because yeah, once again, his baselines are absolutely stellar. Minutes aren't perfect, but I think he also was injured at points in the season. Um, I'll probably look into him for match day 2 and 3 though, within my own sort of personal context, but he's very solid.
Wonderful stuff. Looks like we've gone through pretty much most of the questions that were in the chat. I know what I'm going to finish up on. Who's going to be your favourite differential for the opening match day?
Hmm.
I'll give you some time. If there's any more questions coming in, I'll just quick fire answer those while you two have a quick look for me. Which team do you think could potentially surprise anyone? I think potentially maybe Al Ahly from Egypt could be one of those teams that does well. They've got a pretty good record in this tournament. Good fan base, large player base on this game as well, and that group is widely open as well. I've heard different opinions from MLS fans around the quality of Inter as well. So it's gonna be an interesting opening game. Let's just put it that way. Have a look back through the chat, see if I did miss anything out as well.
I got a couple for you.
Go
I got
on.
a couple for you.
You shoot.
I got to say Lloyd Kelly, haven't I? After all that, so Lloyd Kelly's on there, and I've seen Sane's only 4% owned as well. I think you got to stick him in there. If he starts, he's going to be amazing at that. Well, probably not going to be that ownership if he starts, but
I hate
think he's
Sane as a
pretty good.
player. My God, he's an expensive mudrik to me. No, but I'm kidding. Like I just think his career, the way it's panned out post Man City, has been pretty horrendous. And his minutes honestly just haven't been that good. I do have Gnabry in my team, who I think ended up playing less minutes than Sane this season, but um, just yeah, he should be on paper always within a draft whenever you're targeting Bayern attackers, but I just have no confidence in him. And I think close to the end of the season as well, his minutes did tend to dip a bit, and Koeman started to play a bit more. But yeah, I I can't back Sane.
Any differentials from you, Fran?
I mean, Cambiaso's kind of cheating. So I probably would have to just say any defender who plays for Juventus or Chelsea with sub 5% ownership is to me a very, very good differential for match day 1.
Yeah, I think Colwell's still under 5% for now.
Yeah, which is why I think I have them. But it's hard to pass up on Dumfries, basically.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go for Pavlidis as my differential. Again,
Oh,
probably
that's a good pick.
probably could creep into the 5%. He's currently at 4.7. I don't actually think the opening fixture against Boca's too bad. But then in that match day 2 one, if you obviously can maybe risk going without one of the other big forwards for match day 1, you already have him in set for match day 2 against Auckland, and a pretty good captaincy option, I think, as well.
Do you guys have any thoughts on Benfica being without Di Maria? And what that might mean for how good they are?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I was quite surprised to see they let him go, but then again, I've been listening to some little bits from Portugal, and there's kind of like a mixed reception to him. But I don't really know how it's going to kind of pan out. I think it probably will be one where I think, regardless for my team selection, they still should create plenty of opportunities against Auckland.
Yeah. Well, it's Aktoroglu, right? He's probably
Yeah.
Maybe I'll name it the differential then.
Yeah,
I quite like him.
that's a great
Yeah.
shout. Let me have a look. What's he at in terms of ownership? Oh, he's currently at
3.6, if I've got the right player.
Yes, you have. That's decent. That getting these guys in early might potentially be the move with that match day 2, but it's just I still just think you have to take it, especially in the group stage, each game at a time. I don't think there's any point in kind of forward planning, especially with just that -3 you've got in the back pocket. I think if you really want to just bring in a player for 1 week, I think just take the -3, especially if they're playing against Auckland, Tunis, Casablanca. I think that is going to be the play to go for. I don't know if you guys agree with that or disagree.
I think I'm generally okay with it because there's so much points on offer. The expected points gulf is going to be higher than, as I said, any other fantasy game we've played. It's probably close to worth it, and most cases, I guess, are moving into a differential, right? Because I don't think people will be that aggressive with hits, I imagine. So yeah.
No, I agree. I think then even if say Pavlidis just gets 1 goal and he's still under that 5%, I'm going to get the 2 points back. I've already pretty much made that -3 straight back up, and you definitely could see him just getting at least 1 goal against Auckland. But again, we'll wait and see how they perform against Bayern. If they look really, really bad, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Benfica assets, in game week 2 and going, I've got to get at least 2 of these in here. But yeah.
They're on the defender bonus paychecks, mate. That's what it is. Clean sheet bonus for like 10 grand or whatever.
Any final thoughts from either of you two? No?
No.
Good stuff.
Just really looking forward to the game. There's lots of new rules that I'm not used to in general. And like Fran said, I think there's going to be loads of points on offer. So it should be quite exciting. And loads of new players and teams to learn about, which is always cool.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Well, thank you very much for joining me this evening, Fran and Tom. Like I said, there is a link to both of their guys' channels in the description if you haven't already gone and checked them out. They both make absolutely amazing FPL content as well. Tom is currently got a few videos out as well already for Club World Cup. There's a few on my channel as well. Fran, are you going to make any videos, or is it just going to be some Twitter posts?
No, I'll definitely make videos starting this weekend. Probably stuff. Yeah, with the cheat sheet coming back as well, hopefully.
Oh,
love to hear it. Love to hear it.
That's what I wanted to hear, really. If there's a cheat sheet, that's it. We're set.
I'm there.
Thank you, guys. Well, thank you for having me on.
No worries, mate. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for everybody who's watched, commented, all that good stuff. Like I said, go and check it out. Sign up for the Club World Cup Fantasy and get joining all our mini leagues as well. I was having a look at the mini league kind of standings for numbers involved. I'm currently sat 4th. I don't know how I've done it, but I have the 4th biggest mini league, and I have no idea how that's happened. But yeah, if you want to go and get some more in there, or go and join Fran's, Tom's, I'm sure when they drop their videos as well, there'll be links to both of those as well. But thank you very much for everybody watching tonight, and the best of luck for match day 1. Cheers all.